Welcome to the Regular Guy Show, a show about regular guys and their regular problems. Today we're going to be focusing on technology and its impact on our everyday lives. Specifically, we're going to be talking about cell phones, video games, and of course social media. Now, technology is great, don't get me wrong. I mean, back in the day, when you had to make a phone call, you had to pull off by the side of the road, get out of your vehicle, brave the elements, rain, sleet, snow, wind, whatever it was, find that payphone, drop a quarter in, or a dime, depending on how old you are, and make your call. But today, not anymore. This is all you need. All you need to do is send a text, and in 2 or 3 seconds, somebody will get it and send it back to you. 4 or 5 seconds, you can have a quick conversation with somebody. It's terrific. It's just as fast to send an email, just as fast to make a phone call, surfing the web. You can get into video games. You can get into Candy Crush or Candy Corn or Candy whatever. You can listen to music while you're working out at the gym. Anything you want to do is right here on this cell phone. So it's awesome, right? No, it's not. Because this thing has become an appendage. It's an actual piece of our hands. We can't get rid of it. It's like glue. It won't come off. That's what happens with a cell phone. We need it and we rely on it like crazy these days. Anywhere you go, walk into a restaurant, people sitting at a table across from each other. Are they looking at each other? No, they're on the web. They're looking at their social media. They want to find out who's talking about this, and they're photographing their food and posting it on Instagram. That's what they're doing. It happens everywhere. Schoolyards, in schools, students walking around with cell phones. This morning I was getting my car fixed at the dealership. 5 out of 6 people in the waiting room on their cell phones. The 6th guy, the reason he wasn't on his cell phone is because he was talking to the service manager. That's the only reason he wasn't on his phone. And the service manager, by the way, told me the worst thing that ever happened to him in his life was the cell phone. He's nervous. He's anxious. The thing beeps and buzzes and everything else. He goes out of his mind. He says, I can't stand it. I can't even get a vacation in Dominic. I can't put this thing down even when I'm on the beach. I said, that happens to me. So the question is, what do we do about it? What are we willing to do, and what is the price we're willing to pay for the convenience of this level of technology? Is it good for us? Is it bad for us? Does it cause us too much stress? What's the story? Well, let me give you a couple of stats about social media first. 88% of American teenagers have said that they've witnessed bullying on social media sites. 88%. And 41% of American teenagers have said that something negative has happened to them personally on social media sites. And get a load of this. 22% of American teenagers have said that while they were online looking at social media websites, they've actually lost a friend, terminated a friendship as a result of something that's happened on a social media site. Bad news, real bad news. Well, joining us to help us sift through all this bad stuff, once again on the Regular Guy Show, is psychotherapist Courtney Petter. And with her is educator Sandra Mercurio. She's going to talk a little bit about the influence of cell phones with her students and on her students. And we also have Fabio Mercurio today. He's a college student who, believe it or not, has absolutely no Facebook account, no social media account of any kind, no Twitter, no Instagram, nothing, doesn't need it, doesn't want it. Thank you very much anyway, but I'm all set. That's his attitude. And I kind of like that. But before we jump into our guests, we're going to talk a little bit about what we always like to talk about. What does the Bible say about this topic? What does Jesus in the Bible offer us regular guys and our families about something related to external influences, distractions, things like social media, things like cell phones? And for that, as always, we go to our Bible guru, Mr. Rick Annunziata.
Thanks,
Rick,
Tom.
welcome to the show.
I applaud you, Fab, for doing that. Very hard thing to do. My children are part of the millennials generation, and the one thing I notice more about that generation is how extremely busy they are and how connected to technology they've become. I call my son all the time and I tell him, yours should be called the busy generation. We see this encroachment of technology all around us, right? This diversion that people use as a method to sometimes retract from life. And like you, I was in a restaurant recently and I saw an entire family on their telephones as me and my wife were eating dinner, and I just thought it was amazing. Digital marketing experts tell us that we're subject to 4,000 ads a day, all right, in various forms. And so if I feel like information overload at times, how much more do young people with undeveloped cognitive skills? So as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about my journey of life. And 50 years ago, I remember getting up to a quiet home. And I remember spending time with my grandparents and seeing my grandmother move about her life in silence. You know, she'd do her chores. And likewise, I would often find my grandfather in silent reflection in the backyard drinking iced tea or a glass of wine. They had opportunities to be really quiet. But today we compete for just one moment of silence, and I find that very troubling and disturbing and sometimes almost asphyxiating. And I think the thing is that we need to take these moments out of silence. And I often take my grandchildren out for walks. And in those moments, I tell them to be quiet and be still and to listen to the sound of the wind blowing through the trees or a leaf that bounces across the ground. And hopefully to hear the whisper of God as he speaks to them in silence. In the scriptures, which I'll read in a second, we have a story about Elijah, who was being hunted by a king and queen for their lives. He was out to take their lives. And we read in Scripture where Elijah goes to a cave and he's hiding, and the Lord comes out and speaks to him in the thunder, and he speaks to him in all this noise and chaos. But then all of a sudden, there's a whisper and there's a silence, and Elijah comes out of the cave, and it's in that moment that God begins a discussion with them. And I think that what happens in our lives is that we're not silent, and because of that, we can't hear spiritual truth, because spiritual truth comes to us not in the noise of our lives, but in the silence. And it came to Elijah not in a storm, in the chaos of his life, but it came to him as a whisper, all right, in the silence and in the stillness. And that's something that we all need to take to heart and develop in our lives, this kind of silent spirituality, these moments of quietness. And I think that's really lacking in our lives in so many ways, and I think it's very unhealthy.
Very unhealthy. The trick is, Rick, is everybody wants to sit and put down the cell phone and go for a walk and listen to the wind blowing through the trees, and everybody wants to have that experience, I think.
Sure.
But what do you do about that level of anxiety that a lot of people experience while they know they're away from the cell phone? And it's the what if syndrome. What if somebody's trying to get me? What if my boss needs me? What if somebody's looking for me? What if I miss an important email?
I think there has to be a disconnect, Dominic. There has to be a disciplined disconnect where you say, and I've told this to my daughter-in-law, just shut it down. Put the phone away.
Absolutely great advice. We are going to take a quick break. Don't get on your cell phones. Just stay tuned. We will be right back.
Welcome to Dorico's Meat Market, where fresh and natural ingredients are our specialty. We have the most diverse collection of fresh meats and made-to-order sandwiches that Massachusetts has to offer. Steaks, chicken, pork, homemade sausages, and fresh sliced cold cuts. Newly picked natural vegetables. We got it all. Our vast collection even comes marinated and ready to be fired up for dinner. And who could forget about Dorico's famous meat packages that will save you cash and feed your family for the entire week? There's nothing missing from our collection. What's missing from your table?
Welcome back, regular guys. Get off social media. Come on, tune in. I'm over here. See me? I'm right here. Come on back. Come on back. We got an anomaly for you. We got a great guy here. He's a college student who has no Twitter account, no Instagram account, no Facebook account. He's just a regular kid. He's a regular kid from another time, I think. His name is Fabio, and I'll tell you what. Fabio, thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate somebody like you being on the show with us. I just want to tell you, there's a little difference, When I was growing up, when some of us older guys were growing up in our day, things were a lot different. It's not like, I'm not going to say, well, in my day, we used to roll 5, 6 flights of stairs with 50-pound bags of ice. No, we didn't, it wasn't quite like that. You know what I mean? But we, at the other end of the spectrum, we didn't have the Uber ice delivery app to come, bring the ice up for us. It was just simple life. We played wiffle ball, we played football, we played basketball, we studied. That's what we did. A few of us had Atari, but we didn't make a thing of it where we were just sheltered into a room. So, it wasn't a big thing. It wasn't portable. It wasn't mobile. So my question is, with all this fake social connection going on, I call it fake because it's social connection. I'm on social media. No, you're not. I don't see any person talking to you. You're talking to a phone. It's fake. So you yourself, you don't use Facebook. You don't use Twitter. You don't use Instagram. Tell me straight out. Is there a reason you just don't dig it, right?
Well, for future reference, you also forgot Snapchat, which is very popular too.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Well, no, I don't, because Well, I did once, a long time ago. I tried it out for a while, and
No.
it became kind of annoying to keep up with it, so I just gave up.
Good. I'm kind of glad
I
about
just
that.
gave up. It was kind of stressful.
Now, I
It made
imagine
me
you-
nervous.
Yeah, well, exactly. It makes you nervous and anxious. You got to check back in, see what's going on, who's asking you questions, who's responding, who's quoting, who's posting, whatever it might be. You hang out with your friends from time to time. I know you do. What do you guys do when you hang out? I mean, just regular stuff, or do you just
Usually,
you play video games?
well, they might play video games on their own, but they don't usually talk to me about them because it's not something we ever talked about. But if you go to the movies or go out to dinner, then the movies, then once in a while we might play cards together or or maybe just sports together once in a while
Believe it or
too.
not, the kid plays cards.
Yeah, I know it is. Did you
More
ever, do you-
sports than cards.
Do you feel like when you're interacting with your friends that you're kind of like on the fringe, that you're not in the now and the know, because of that?
Sometimes
Yeah.
we feel disconnected.
Yeah.
There's nothing
I
wrong
guess,
with that.
yeah.
I think that's really, which brings me to my next question. Do you find it easy or difficult to talk to people older than yourself, guys like our age, that maybe aren't involved in social media or some of the things kids your age are involved in? Do you find it easy? Like before mass, after mass, sometimes after racquetball, we go out, we have a little pizza, something like that. There's older people there. I notice you have a pretty decent time of it carrying a conversation. No big issues there with you?
No, it's usually easy for the most part.
Yeah,
It's
and the
easy
reason I ask
that
is
with
because, Courtney, I hear a lot of kids have trouble interacting with adults when they're really focused several hours a day on social media and on video games. I hear that, I understand from conversation that they have trouble interacting with older people, but you really don't, right? So the lacking of all this social media and video games is actually pretty much serving you well, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say it is.
Yeah, I think so too. Any frustration having conversations with kids your age who are buried into their phone in the dorm room or at the
Well,
dining
if
hall?
they're not my friends, then yeah, because I don't really know them. But if once in a while, it's a little bit difficult if they're just not interacting with you.
Yeah.
But usually, not if I already know them. It's very easy.
Have you ever just walked up to them and given them a whack?
No,
Put the phone down, Charlie. Come on.
I'm not ready to go to jail.
Okay, all right, good. And I'm not ready to bail you out, so good answer. Courtney. We got Courtney back. I love her. She's great. Welcome back to the show.
Thank
As a therapist, what have you observed in your clients who make cell phones, social media, video games a big part of their lives? I mean, I know that you've observed couples in your waiting room even,
Yeah.
who you come out to get and bring into an appointment, and they're like this,
Right. No
you know?
communication happening.
And then in session,
Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of kids in the session do that, and I have to tell them it has to go down.
how do
Yeah.
you deal? How do you manage that?
Well, I mean, I've looked up some information on it, and there was a Time magazine article written a couple years ago about how anxiety and depression are so much higher in teens, mainly because of the phones and social media. They're not interacting with others personally. Like you said earlier, friendships can end over an internet connection. I see that happening, especially with girls. A lot of girls are self-harming more, cutting their wrists and everything because they're so stressed out. Like, in our day, we would have to call, hey, do you want to go out to play type thing if someone didn't answer? Okay. But now they can see on there if someone's like doing something and they're not included, so they feel left out, causes a lot of stress. And like video games, girls like video games, but I think more boys. So some teenage boys I see, they're isolating, they're gaining weight, they're just kind of sitting in, not doing anything. They justify it and say to me, well, I talk to people in Europe online when I'm on the video game. Okay, nice cultural experience, but again, you're not one-on-one, you're not really getting that personal connection.
I've heard it said that back in the day when I used to call my friends, or they would call me and say, hey, is Dominic there? My father would say, yeah, sure, hold on, Joe, hold on, Frankie, wait 1 second, we'll get Dominic. There was a connection between my parents and my
true.
friends. Right now, I don't know who's calling them. I don't know what they want to do. I trust them implicitly, so I don't have an issue with it.
Right,
but
right.
I don't know what's going on.
I think
know
a lot
who's
of
looking
parents
for 'em.
trust little kids too much with these phones. There's a girl
Yeah.
I see who's 12 years old,
Yeah.
has every social media application on there imaginable, sent nude pictures to kids in school.
Wow.
And
tough.
then the parents came in the session, I addressed it with them. I said, I think you should take the phone away and or cut off all social media. For 1 week they took the phone, gave it back, no they didn't cut anything off. They didn't give her a flip phone, nothing. They just let it all go and trusted the kid again.
Terrible.
And right, they don't know who kids are talking to. There's no connection with that.
That's unbelievable.
The other part of the problem, Dom, is that the inability of parents to manage technology in the homes.
Yeah.
They don't know how. So it's like Junior is out there doing whatever Junior wants to do because they really don't know how to stop this stuff.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That was part of that Time magazine article. They actually mentioned that because parents are not quite as savvy when it comes to this stuff, they feel a sense of, this is not my expertise, I don't want to jump in there. Or if they really want to connect with their kids, what they sometimes do is get on Facebook, create an account,
And then they
and
try to
friend their
find- yes.
and friend their
I have some
children.
parents who Snapchat, they
Yep.
watch the Snapchat to make sure nothing bad's happening.
Unbelievable. Don't Snapchat anything. Just stay still, keep the channel where it is, come right back to us. We got some great stuff happening. Be right back with more Regular Guy.
Welcome to DeRico's Meat Market, where fresh and natural ingredients are our specialty. We have the most diverse collection of fresh meats and made-to-order sandwiches that Massachusetts has to offer. Steaks, chicken, pork, homemade sausages and fresh sliced cold cuts, newly picked natural vegetables. We got it all. Our vast collection even comes marinated and ready to be fired up for dinner. And who could forget about DeRico's famous meat packages that will save you cash and feed your family for the entire week? There's nothing missing from our collection. What's missing from your table?
Welcome back, regular guys and families. We're with Courtney Petter. She's a psychotherapist. She's talking a little bit about the impact of technology on families, on couples, on children. Courtney, we talked during the break a little bit about parents choosing the right time to get a cell phone for their children. Is there any benchmark? Is there any right way, wrong way? In your experience, with clients, are there more effective ages or less effective ages to give a cell phone to a small child?
I really think middle teens, like 15, should be the appropriate age when a kid could kind of handle it.
Right.
I mean, if you have a need to give a young child a phone, just give them a flip phone where they can just call you.
What's
where
the
there's
youngest
nothing
age
else.
you've ever had a client?
9.
9 years old. What was the rationale from the parents' point of view? Why did they give
Well,
a
I
phone
have to
at
know
that
where
age?
they are. Are they safe?
Okay.
You know.
You know what I got when my father needed to know where I was? Street lights went on. Dominic, dinner. It was like Anthony. And I came down the street. That was it. He called. He screamed up the street. That was how I knew
But
it
these
was
kids
time.
nowadays
We didn't
can
get
have,
texted.
But some have even like bank accounts on their phone so they can take Uber and do all sorts of things. So the parents don't know where they are.
Speaking of parents, I have heard a number of examples where men, 20s, 30s, even 40s, social media, but video games, addicted to it. You've ever had any clients that are addicted to video games, or you know of anybody who's had that problem? And what kind of impact does it have on a marriage when you have a father addicted to a video game and the wife says, hey honey, let's go out and get something to eat? No, I'm at about 1400, I need another, what's the,
Yeah,
how
well,
does
I
that
talked
work?
about in the last show, the couple show, about how to have individual and couple time.
Yeah.
And I think it's appropriate if someone wants a little individual time for video games, as long as it doesn't become obsessive. But the couple time gets bleeded into because this person's doing the video game and then the wife feels left out. So
Absolutely.
I think if someone can control it and do 15 minutes and that's kind of their individual time or something, but if it turns into hours and it's affecting them going out to dinner, that's a problem.
I think for me personally, I imagine it's like being in a casino. No
Yeah.
sunlight, no windows, no clocks. You don't know what time it is. You're rolling. You're at the last level of whatever game, Mario Brothers, I don't even know what they are. And 2 hours have gone by and your wife's standing outside with divorce papers. You can't possibly keep track of it when you're really into it. So
No,
I think
you
I
can't.
think it's like quitting, like smoking. Just quit,
Right.
be done with it. Now I understand you have a couple of questions for, Sandra
Well,
and
yeah, I
myself.
wanted to know, so I want to say about the only positive thing I can think of with kids having phones and video games would be, you can kind of use that as discipline leverage. So if a kid's doing something wrong, you can take the phone away. I've seen temper tantrums happen with that in my office, or, you take your video games away or something like that. But I wondered, kind of discipline-wise, since he wasn't into all that, how did it work for you,
Yeah,
disciplining and, that kind of thing?
Unfortunately, we didn't use it as discipline really because he never abused the use of the phone.
Actually, I tried that once. Had
Yeah.
no relationship to the phone at all. He wasn't even a cop in an attitude with me, but it kind of seemed like he was. So I said, I'll tell you what, give me that phone for a couple of days. it was like nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
Going about his day, he's doing what he's doing. This kid doesn't need a phone. I'm not getting to him. I got to find another way to punish him. You know?
No effect at
The
all.
phone didn't work.
Yeah, because we really got him the phone to be able to call him when he was at school if he needed a ride, if something happened. Remember, he had a half
Yeah.
a day once, and he's just sitting outside waiting, and we didn't know. And,
Yeah.
you know, so it was mainly for contact for that reason, not
that's
for
what it
playing
really kinda
games.
should
And,
be.
yeah, just to know where he is. You know,
Yeah,
so.
they worked out pretty well
Yeah.
that way. Like I say, we didn't really get anywhere on the discipline end of things. That wasn't really how to reach him. He's a cool cucumber. He doesn't, you know.
No, I think a
he
lot
didn't
of
need-
parents are afraid to discipline nowadays because kids will say, "I'll call DCF on you," so they're afraid to
Yeah, I
even
know.
do anything.
You know
in
what I'd
terms of
say? I'll call MAFIA on you. DCF. We're telling you, don't play around with that
Yeah,
stuff.
no, we definitely don't. We don't play around with that.
Can't say it on TV.
I can't. We'll edit that out
Make us
later.
all look bad.
Son, you're a Spanish teacher. I call her Son. Son, you're a Spanish teacher at a boarding school. Kids come in from far and wide, different countries, different states, and they have some social challenges, I guess. They're privileged economically. They have the parents have resources, but sometimes it's a social issue. And I understand that they're not allowed. They live there at the
Right.
school, but they're not allowed to have cell phones.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, they're not allowed from the moment they get there. They're taken away, and because they know that it's a distraction. Having phones is a
Wow.
distraction, and it creates social anxiety because a lot of those kids, if they had their phones, they'd be using their phones to text each other or go on the internet, and they wouldn't be taking up sports or joining clubs or anything like
They
that.
wouldn't be
So-
interacting socially.
and even with
like
the staff,
with
like
each
you
other.
mentioned earlier, with adults, learning how to talk to adults.
So because they know they can't have the phone, they do well without it.
Right, right. I mean, they'll fight. I wish I had my phone. I wish I could. Why can't I use my phone? But they get used to it, and it's kind of like the old school, like the way we grew up, where there's no cell phone and they have to interact, and it works out well.
Rick, it's amazing to see kids that don't have cell phones, you know? I don't know these kids, but to think about the fact that there are students without cell phones, it's, I use the word again, an anomaly, you know?
It certainly is today.
Now, your son Matthew is a technology guy. That's
Yes,
what he
is,
does.
Yes, yeah, he does, yeah.
How does
It's-
he, and he's got children.
Yeah, and it's very challenging him to limit the amount of information that comes into his house. So he's pretty adept at it, but he's one of the few that can do that. And we've often talked, and I tell my son that I feel bad for parents that are behind the curve, because they're totally outfoxed by the whole situation. It's just really bad. And when my kids were younger, there was none of that stuff. We had a computer, but it was easily monitored. It's not the same today. It's a real beast out there today.
No, it is. It's unbelievable, especially for guys like Matthew who are, their job is technology. They have all kinds of portals coming into their house, all kinds of equipment and everything else.
Yeah.
And to say, this isn't for you, this is for me, it's a little bit trickier and more difficult than, say, for a family that doesn't rely on technology for a job every day, because
Right.
the influence and the temptation to use it isn't really in the house as much. There's a particularly interesting article from Psychology Today magazine, and it basically indicates that technology is creating distance between children and parents, and the ramifications of this distancing are profound. Less connection, and I mean the real kind, person to person, means that families aren't able to build relationships as strong as they could be, nor are they able to maintain these relationships as well as they should. And as a result, children will feel, say, less familiarity, less comfort, less trust, less security, and most importantly, less love with their parents and from their parents. And there's also this sharing, which means that parents know less about what is going on in their children's lives, and consequently, they have less ability and influence over them. So the solution: have dinner together, talk, play a board game, watch a movie, read a little scripture. Put the phones away. Stay tuned for this video.
I have 422 friends, yet I'm lonely. I speak to all of them every day, yet none of them really know me. The problem I have sits in the spaces between looking into their eyes or at a name on a screen. I took a step back and opened my eyes. I looked around and realised that this media we call social is anything but when we open our computers and it's our doors we shut. All this technology we have, it's just an illusion. Community, companionship, a sense of inclusion. Yet when you step away from this device of delusion, you awaken to see a world of confusion. A world where we're slaves to the technology we mastered, where information gets sold by some rich, greedy bastard. A world of self-interest, self-image, self-promotion, where we all share our best bits but leave out the emotion. We're at our most happy with an experience we share, but is it the same if no one is there? Be there for your friends and they'll be there too, but no one will be if a group message will do. We edit and exaggerate, crave adulation. We pretend not to notice the social isolation. We put our words into order until our lives are glistening. We don't even know if anyone is listening. Being alone isn't the problem. Let me just emphasise, if you read a book, paint a picture, or do some exercise, you're being productive and present, not reserved and recluse. You're being awake and attentive and putting your time to good use. So when you're in public and you start to feel alone, put your hands behind your head, step away from the phone. You don't need to stare at your menu or at your contact list. Just talk to one another. Learn to coexist. I can't stand to hear the silence of a busy commuter train where no one wants to talk through the fear of looking insane. We're becoming unsocial. It no longer satisfies to engage with one another and look into someone's eyes. We're surrounded by children who, since they were born, have watched us living like robots and think it's the norm. It's not very likely you'll make world's greatest dad if you can't entertain a child without using an iPad. When I was a child, I'd never be home. Be out with my friends on our bikes, we would roam. I'd wear holes in my trainers and graze up my knees. We'd build our own clubhouse high up in the trees. Now the park's so quiet it gives me a chill. See no children outside and the swings hanging still. There's no skipping, no hopscotch, no church and no steeple. We're a generation of idiots, smartphones and dumb people. So look up from your phone, shut down the display. Take in your surroundings, make the most of today. Just one real connection is all it can take to show you the difference that being there can make. Be there in the moment that she gives you the look that you remember forever as when love overtook. The time she first holds your hand or first kiss your lips. The time you first disagree but still love her to bits. The time you don't have to tell hundreds of what you've just done because you want to share this moment with just this one. The time you'll sell your computer so you can buy a ring for the girl of your dreams who is now the real thing. The time you want to start a family and the moment when you first hold your little girl and get to fall in love again. The time she keeps you up at night and all you want is rest, and the time you wipe away the tears as your baby flees the nest. The time your baby girl returns with a boy for you to hold, and the time he calls you granddad and makes you feel real old. The time you take in all you've made just by giving life attention, and how you're glad you didn't waste it by looking down at some invention. The time you hold your wife's hand, sit down beside her bed, you tell her that you love her, lay a kiss upon her head. She then whispers to you quietly, as her heart gives a final beat, that she's lucky she got stopped by that lost boy in the street. But none of these times ever happened. You never had any of this. When you're too busy looking down, you don't see the chances you miss. So look up from your phone, shut down those displays. We have a finite existence, a set number of days. Don't waste your life getting caught in the net, as when the end comes, nothing's worse than regret. I am guilty too of being part of this machine, this digital world we are heard but not seen, where we type as we talk and we read as we chat, where we spend hours together without making eye contact. So don't give in to a life where you follow the hype. Give people your love, don't give them your like. Disconnect from the need to be heard and defined. Go out into the world, leave distractions behind. Look up from your phone, shut down that display. Stop watching this video, live life the real way.